Who set it up?
Telling you the truth about this. Everybody else is pointing the finger at you.
Oh, he's right.
Get him.
This is a case that on its face looks fairly obvious as to who the shooter is. But what actually happened was so incredibly shocking that even detectives and seasoned journalists couldn't believe it. Who was behind this series of attacks of a neighborhood icon?
He was punched. He was shot multiple times.
And he had a hood on?
Yes, and a mask.
He was stabbed 7 times.
What type of car was it?
The entire family was under attack.
Biomedical.
It was brutal and crazy and unanswerable.
Some guy got shot in the parking lot. He's dead.
We had looked at the Mafia.
Now, we don't know if it's not coming from us.
There is somebody behind the scenes pulling the strings, and that begs the question,
In September 2017, officers respond to an incident. The incident was recorded. The victim of the crime was Sylvester Zatola, commonly known as Sally Dad. He was 70 years old. He was merely standing outside when the video showed a male walk up to Mr. Zatola, engage him in a short conversation, and basically asked him about employment. Sally Dad says, no, there's no employment around here. And he had turned around and started punching him several times. And then all of a sudden, he just started viciously beating him right to the ground. He had some bruising and he had a broken rib. It's heartless.
Zatola tells police that the perpetrator was an African-American male, didn't really know the age, so it's a pretty basic description for a suspect.
So the detectives really didn't have anything kind of go on in this case. Who's walking up to an elderly gentleman, and beating him like that?
Zatola's backstory is interesting. He was a guy who was also known in the community as a reputable businessman and a very successful businessman at that. And his business was real estate. Eventually amassing more than $40 million of primarily residential buildings throughout New York City. His wife died years ago, so essentially he became a single father to his 3 children. He had 2 boys and 1 girl, Deborah, the daughter. His eldest son, Salvatore, and his younger son was Anthony, and also a plethora of grandchildren. He would tell anybody who asked that his family was the most important thing in the world to him. In fact, his 2 sons were brought in to run portions of his business.
He was a fixture of that community. He's been a supporter, of the police and helped the precinct out a lot during his lifetime with security camera, outside his residence, supplying video to the police and detectives for crimes that occur in and around the area. He was like the godfather of that community. It has been widely said that he was like Santa Claus without a beard. He was a jolly old fellow.
He would be the type of guy who would wave to kids on the street corner. Everybody knew him.
So why is someone going after him? Really a gem of the community. You know, we had a rash of old people getting sucker punched, you know, throughout, you know, New York City during that time as well. So is it just someone who's following a trend? It didn't look like it was a full attempt, you know, of his life, other than an assault or maybe a possible attempted robbery. November 2017, Sally Daz, he comes into the precinct, speaks to the desk officer, telling him he was driving on the expressway, and in front of him, and a perpetrator wearing a mask gets out with a firearm and starts threatening him, and tells the first officer he sees that somebody is either trying to carjack him or kidnap him, because, you know, what else would there be? But they do an area canvass, which shows up negative for the perpetrator in the area. At this time, the two incidents are considered separate, even though it's our same victim, because the description Sally Daz gave is very vague. Really, at this point, both of these incidents are really like a dead end. There's no other investigative information, and all leads are exhausted. So a little over a month later, 911 is called for a break-in at the Zatola residence. So when the officers respond to Mrs. Zatola's home, they find him. He's bleeding profusely on the ground. He's been stabbed multiple times and slashed across the neck.
Somehow, miraculously, he survived this brutal attack. He tells detectives the little bit that he knew, that he's at home. The next thing he knows, there's a group of men in there. And there wasn't small talk. There wasn't a lot of threats or anything like that. They went right after him. And he didn't get any great physical description, with the exception of he believed that these were predominantly African-American men.
Doesn't appear that there's any forced entry. There's a code to get in. How did he have that code?
And number two, Zatola has surveillance camera in his property. But guess what? There was no surveillance tape from that incident.
They stole the home video surveillance. So this starts looking to us as this might be an inside job. Someone's definitely trying to kill this guy. But wait a minute, why did they want to kill him?
Hi, my name's Frank DiMatteo, and I know Sally through the vending business.
Are there things that just stays amongst the family and just don't share?
Mob World family, they're not gonna tell nobody nothing. The less people know, the better it is, because the less people got killed.
What do you know about Sally Daz? You know,
Only we know about Sally was a good guy. He was affiliated with the Bonanos. He had friends for protection. I was with a different family, but that's how we got to know him at all, because he was in that area was a Bonano area, so that's why we knew he had a friend up there.
In New York City, there's 5 major crime families. And the Bonanos really took a big chunk of the Bronx area.
Many people don't walk around with a name tag that says, I'm in bed with a crime family. That's just not how it works. Zatola was considered an associate of the Bonanno family.
Sally himself wasn't in the Mafia, but he had enough friends and a Bonanno crew. So what makes you a mobster? Because you got a friend that's a mobster? To be able to do that world doesn't make him a gangster. Not everybody, I think because you know somebody, you're a gangster. It doesn't work that way. Only in, maybe on TV or something like that, but in the real world, no. If you're a moron that knows a gangster. This guy was a legitimate businessman on real estate, and then he was involved with Joker poker games. That's how he got started, which is a big business.
So Joker Poker is an extremely popular video gaming machine that is sold to and placed in social clubs, and it is very, very profitable because there's a lot of money in it.
Is that stuff legal?
No, it's not legal. So you can bring in millions, yearly. So, and it's unrecorded. It could be so lucrative. I know guys got tons and tons and tons of money by doing that, vending. Like I said, it's all under the table, so.
So Sally Daz had Joker poker machines, which he would run anywhere from a basement apartment building to the back of a bodega to numerous different commercial locations where they have secret spots in the back. The expectation of Sally Daz was to bring food to the family. That's kind of like how they put it, is bringing money, kicking money up to the Bonanno crime family to help support the Bonanno crime family. So at this point, the Mafia, someone trying to whack him and bump him off from his own organization, from one of the other families, to gain all his profits and take over those Joker poker machines, or possibly even going into his real estate and trying to bump him out of real estate.
Now, we don't know if it's not coming from us. It couldn't come from Bonannos wanting to take him out, or some other family was trying to move in on him. We don't know because they don't tell us.
So several months go by since the third incident. He's off the grid.
Sally laid low, which is what you're supposed to do, not being flashy.
He doesn't stay at the house anymore. He has a separate apartment.
He really buttoned up his inner circle, and that included his kids, his grandkids, and a couple of mob associates that he does most of his business with.
So I know the Bonannos, they would reach out in the street and see if we knew anything about it or anybody could find anything about it, and they didn't. That's what it threw everybody off.
At this point, it's becoming urgent that if law enforcement doesn't figure out who is targeting this elderly man, he will end up dead.
One day in June 2018, Mr. Zottola was walking around in another section of the Bronx. He's been in hiding. Someone approaches with a hoodie.
On this day, Zottola's confronted outside of this new location. Somebody puts a gun into his face, is gonna shoot him at point-blank range and kill him, no doubt.
Now, luckily for Sally Daz, the gun jams. And Sally Daz has his own firearm on him and fires it at the fleeing perpetrator. So when the police arrive, the first thing they do is they see Sally Daz and his son, Anthony Zottola.
Can he go inside? Is that okay?
Not right now. Not gonna go inside right now.
Mr. Zottola is a wreck.
I was walking up 194th Street.
Yes.
I always turn around because I always think there's a car up there. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see no car. I turn around and see a black guy with a hood on.
Mm-hmm.
He walks across the street that way. He walks across the street that way.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts coming over to me like this.
Okay. And he had a hood on?
Yes, and a mask.
So after this attempt, you know, Mrs. Zottola's kids, Deborah, Salvatore, and Anthony, they're all up in arms about what happened.
What type of car was it?
It was a four-door blue, whatever, with Connecticut plates on it.
But at this point, what's going through the detectives' minds is he's relocated. People who are behind this, how do they know where he is, right?
And that's what makes this attack in June that much more brutal and crazy and unanswerable, because he's in a location where nobody is supposed to know where he is.
So what did you see when you saw him with a firearm? What did you do?
I had him around me. I took it out. I said, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move.
Uh-huh.
You know, and he's ready to fire.
And then what happened?
I fired to scare him.
He was returning fire, you know, to the perpetrator, so in self-defense, but he has an illegal firearm on him.
How many shots did you fire? One? And do you have a pistol permit?
No.
So this is interesting. He ends up getting arrested for illegal gun possession.
Anthony, they should be checking all these cameras.
So listen, I can't blame Sally Dance for carrying a firearm. Is it illegal? Yes. Is he getting arrested for it? Yes. Do I think a grand jury will ever indict him? You know, no. Why? Because there's 4 attempts on his life, but the law's the law.
Oh, there's a go. Oh, he's right. He's right. Something like that. When you throw something on it. Yeah. So he's the one to improve.
Go, go, go. Get up, get up.
Yeah, he won. He's still there? Possibly on the parking lot.
Right here. Finally, in custody?
So really what happens is after this fourth incident, the perpetrator for that incident ends up getting arrested a little while later in Manhattan for criminal possession of a weapon because he has that illegal firearm.
I got the gun. I got the gun.
You got the gun? And where was the gun dropped?
The gun was right. I saw him throw it over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
The problem is in the Bronx, we don't get that information that the arrest is made.
The arrest happened in Manhattan, and the attempted shooting was in the Bronx. And both shootings and gun arrests happen all the time in New York City, so neither really warrants any kind of citywide action. And so both jurisdictions are left in the dark about what the other had. And I don't think anybody in law enforcement thought that these were the same group of perpetrators, or at the very least, the same group behind the planning of this.
At this point in the investigation, now we start pulling jail phone calls to see who's calling, talking to Mr. Zottola to see if they have any idea who it is, or is it them?
Mr. Zottola had very strong ties with Vinny. And Vinny Bassiano was the head of the Bonanno family. And not only were they really close friends, they were also really close business associates.
Vinny, he's actually in jail during this whole incident. And the sons had approached him with a phone call to see even if the Mafia is involved with this.
Vinny, they think we know who these people are. I'm like, we have no idea. We don't have anybody.
And Vinny Gorgeous basically said right off the mark, the crime families have no involvement with this. This is something coming from outside.
There's nobody that you bother. They should push you through this bullshit, man. Come on, man. father's a good person. Your father's the salt of the earth. The salt of the earth. He helped out everybody. You know what I mean? I don't know who's got this problem against him.
And Vinny loved Sally Daz, and for years contributed to the family. That's not somebody who they would want to get rid of.
It's somebody that he knows. It's somebody that knows his routine. All right. I just don't know who it is.
And if it was, another mafia organization, another one of those 5 families, Vinny Gorgeous probably would have said something. But we got nothing like that.
One day in July, Zottola's family vehicle stops and parks at the Zottola family compound. But it wasn't Sal Sr. who got out of the car. It was his son, Sal Jr. And all of a sudden, somebody was targeting what appeared to be his entire family. Sal Jr. is shot multiple times. He's rolling around on the ground. It's a gruesome crime, again, in broad daylight.
It was a life-threatening wound. And he was rushed to the hospital, and lucky for him, it was non-fatal, and he survived it.
It was a big news. We heard about it when it happened. We found it strange. And I found it strange because the shooter was strange. This guy's half running, looking for him, trying to shoot him. I said, that's how you do it.
As somebody who covered this case, the mob gets it done on the first try. And this was a case where it was almost like a bunch of bumbling idiots trying to kill somebody, but always failing.
It was so just so unprofessional, the whole thing, It'll take you 3 times to go kill somebody. It takes you 2 minutes, you get up close and kill the guy,
Was it mistaken identity?
I think it was, yeah, 100%.
Do you think who's the real target here?
That day, yeah. Yes, definitely.
So when I look at this incident, a lot of people say maybe it's mistaken identity, right? He gets out and the perpetrator comes up and starts shooting at him. Maybe he mistakes it that it's his dad. I never really looked at it that way. The way I looked at it is, hey, listen, they're going after Sally Daz, they can't get him, right? What's the next thing likely to do? Let's go after his family. Like they want his business, they go after the kid too.
What this attack showed law enforcement was that it wasn't just the elder Zottola. The entire family was under attack. And that begs the question, who wants this entire family dead? There are no leads. Cops aren't close to a suspect. And everybody is waiting for the next shoe to drop.
I was a stringer, a freelance reporter for the New York Daily News. The guy that goes to the scene to cover a story in person. If it's a crime scene, talk to people, go to court, talk to the cops, things of that nature. So that day, the editor says, well, you might regret this, but I have an assignment for you.
I'm working a normal shift. Salvatore was done recovering, and we get the call that there's a homicide over at the McDonald's on Webster Avenue.
It's a kind of busy corridor in West Bronx. Not a nice place, to be honest with you.
Biomedical. Hi, can you send me on the ambulance right now? Some guy got shot in the parking lot.
Somebody got shot?
Yes.
Anybody know who shot him?
No.
the crime scene at McDonald's, and it was an Acura SUV, maroon-colored car just next to the McDonald's takeout window.
First breathing.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm inside. I'm one of the managers of McDonald's, and I was taking an order when I seen the dude come and shot the guy.
Okay.
I don't know this man. I was about to give him the food when everything happened.
Anybody got a description of the person? You know what he shot at?
All we know is somebody, we're just taking care of customers. Somebody just ran to the car and shot at it.
While we're en route, they tell us right away that it's Sally Daz. And someone had shot and killed him in the drive-thru at the McDonald's.
So he's in the car.
Yes, he's dead.
As a department, we have the duty to protect our citizens. So when you turn around and you fail at it, yeah, you get emotional about it and you want to go out and find out who the murderer is. When we get there, I'm brought to the rear of the McDonald's. It appeared that the vehicle was pressed up against the building where the call box is. Mr. Zottola is slumped on the steering wheel.
There's a fence around the McDonald's perimeter, and there's a big hole in the fence. And as I learned, the suspected killer at the time snuck into that hole. The victim, Zottola, is in his car, and he's driving up to the drive-in window, and he orders a coffee, and he's boxed in. There's a car in front of him, and there's a car behind him, so he can't move.
That's kind of like a funnel, right? That we're always taught as police officers, don't drive through drive-thrus, don't go through. Why? Because of bottlenecks. And now all of a sudden you're a target.
And so the killer, when he gets close, he just fires his shots. And he hits him in the back and in the chest.
And we were shocked at that. You know, we were shocked at why. I always thought they were going to rob him. That's all we could shake him down and rob him, you know. And this escalated to him getting killed. Got killed.
First thing I noticed walking around the vehicle was the cluster of bullet holes in the side window. There was a very tight cluster. So the person who turned around and fired this weapon had a very tight grouping, which means he didn't just fire a weapon haphazardly into the vehicle, hoping to strike. He fired that weapon and those bullets through that vehicle and struck him with precision. So that tells me, you know, that the shooter has used a firearm before, that he's proficient with it, and that he can stay on target even during a stressful situation like that. So I started asking myself, out of all these other attempts, I can see a level of professionalism has increased. And I kind of felt that this could be a different person from the last couple of attempts. One of the other detectives interviewed the 911 caller.
He had a black hoodie. He looks young. He looks like a black kid.
But she took cover and wasn't able to see his face, but he had retreated back up the hill.
A few days later, I covered the funeral. The church was packed. There were like maybe at least 300 people in there, packed. And there was this beautiful photo of Zottola. And I'm just looking at him, look at him. It's like my grandpa, you know? It could be my grandpa.
Deborah and Sal Jr. and Anthony all gave touching eulogies about what this man meant to them and to this community. They were devastated at the news that they had lost the man that they were closest to in their lives.
Debbie, the daughter, I remember her in tears. Anthony, too, had some very nice words about his father. It was like, you were a wise man, you were strong. And he was saying, you taught me everything in life. I need to make you proud. Like, I will do all I can not to disappoint the family, you know, my brother, my sister, especially you. It was very touching. There's something so mundane about all of this, right? You're just ordering a coffee. You're just like an average Joe ordering a coffee, and you love to get his coffee there. And that was his last coffee.
I don't believe in coincidences. So I started asking myself, okay, how do they know where he is? Are they following him? The vehicle ends up getting removed to really get processed. We go over the entire vehicle. They go from top to bottom, you know, from the front to the back. And one of the things that we end up coming up with is a tracker on the vehicle, a GPS device that is in the wheel well. It answers some questions like, wow, right? That's how they've been tracking him, and that's how they got him here. So at this point, this is like the real big, solid piece of evidence that we had that could possibly bring us, you know, to a perpetrator. I know how these things work, and I know that this thing is talking to something. So it's gonna be talking to a cell phone or to some other device that's gonna be able to be tracked. We'd send it to the lab and to get it broken down. So once we start receiving that information back, what do? Just like I have kids. Every time they get a new toy, they want to play with it. Usually the first thing that they'll do is they'll activate this device near their home. So I look at the first thing that's on that line of where it is, and that leads me to Topping Avenue in the Bronx. It's less than a half a mile from the crime scene at the McDonald's. So then I turn around and I start my video campus. I go up and down Topping Avenue, and I walk into this one building, and I go and I start downloading video and reviewing video, and I see the GPS device being used. Looks like being tested by two males out in front of the address. And all my other attempts, they're masked or hooded. But these guys are standing right out in plain view, and I can see exactly who they are. These aren't your Mafia type.
At the same time, a Bloods member named Ron Caby, who was arrested in Manhattan a few months earlier for discarding that firearm, came forward and said to the police, I've been seeing all these headlines, I've been hearing all of this about the Zatola murder. I have information that you're gonna wanna know.
He feels that he's going to be wrapped up in this whole thing, and he wants to get ahead of it, and he wants to cut a deal and give up who everybody is.
He tells them that he was offered $10,000 from a Bloods associate to kill an older man. He was given intimate details about the person that he was going after, from security codes to where surveillance cameras were located in the residences, to routines, times of day that the victim might be home. And when he went to shoot and kill an elderly man, his gun jammed.
Now the light bulbs are going off, okay? Now it's a murder for hire case. And the people who are outside using that GPS device, they're just hired hitmen. Who's going out and employing them? That's what I want to find out. But Ron Caby does not know who the handler is. He doesn't know who the mastermind behind this whole thing is. He just knows that they were hired to kill Sylvester Zatola. But Ron Caby tells us the names of the people using the GPS that was used to murder Sally Daz. That's Passon Shelton. And that's Hyman Ross.
We're given an opportunity to kind of explain what happened that day.
To explain what?
Why don't you tell us?
I don't have nothing to explain.
We established probable cause, and now we're turning around. We're arresting Passon Shelton at his residence in Brooklyn.
We tend to imagine killers of mobsters as just looking the way the mobster look, but Passon Shelton is just a regular guy from Brooklyn, went to college in the Bronx. I remember looking at Shelton's LinkedIn page, and I was thinking, oh, this is just like an average guy.
When we do the search of his residence, we find a firearm, which is not part of our crime, but we also find cell phones,
Sean Shelton's cell phone revealed text messages between he and somebody else speaking in movie terms and movie vernacular. For example, Shelton was referring to himself as the director. And shortly after the murder was done, he texted something to the effect of, "The movie is shot," or "The movie is over."
These are code words about the murder. And we start seeing all the messages that were going back and forth to an unknown number. So that phone number is now submitted. Now they're gonna find out in the subscriber information on who owns that phone. And when I get that phone call, it's probably one of the best phone calls I've ever gotten in my life. It was the wow moment of this entire case, and probably in my career as well, to find out that his own son, Anthony Zotolo, organized the murder of his father.
I was like, wait, Anthony? The guy, the son, who was at the grieving at the funeral? And just thought, like, who knew?
I think anybody covering this case knew that there was a part of this that was an inside job of some sort.
Can he go inside? Is that okay?
Everything started making sense. I mean, he knew where his father was all the time. He knew that there was video cameras inside the residence. He knew the code to get into the back of his house, into his kitchen. He knew all of that.
It's very, very rare that organized crime will bring in somebody from the outside, somebody from a street gang to do their dirty work.
Yeah, what type of car was it?
But Anthony had to go outside of their circle. Sean Shelton, he's the guy or the subcontractor where you go to and you say, I need this, this, and this, and then he finds the people to do the job and who knew how to pull off violent attacks.
One thing I can say is I had a feeling you were coming. When, I don't know, but I can thank you that it was after Father's Day and it was after my kid's breakfast.
Anthony was arrested the day after Father's Day for his own father's murder. He doesn't have remorse. And that was the shocking throughout this entire ordeal. Anthony played the loving son while he was pulling all the strings. I don't know for certain, but I'm not sure that Anthony has a soul.
So detectives are thinking, what's the motive here? Once we make the arrest, we look into Anthony Zotolo. Sally Dad had multiple businesses, from real estate to also joker poker machines.
Anthony was running the real estate arm of this business. But the eldest son, Salvatore, was running the joker poker portion of this business and worked more closely with the mob associates and the folks with the social clubs. I think this was a case of Anthony wiping out his brother and his father, wanting dad's money, wanting the brother's money as the only way to ascend in the family and become the guy. The only motive that is clear as day is the motive of greed.
Sally, just a good guy, man. We would take it back. In our world, it usually doesn't happen over money. You respect your father, you're gonna kill him, or your brother. But you gotta be out of your mind to do something like that, man.
Sean Shelton tells the U.S. attorney, Hyman Ross is the guy that was the shooter.
Prosecutors said Hyman Ross was a violent member of the Blood Street Gang with a felony record. I mean, he was definitely someone capable of pulling off a targeted killing in a drive-thru.
It took them over a year, really, to succeed because of the different players that they had involved. And that's also what kind of threw us off during the days. You went from guys who really had no experience trying to carry this out to, at the end, more experienced guys that were able to get the job done.
I think the most bothersome part about this case is that the elder Zatola did everything for his children, and yet it wasn't enough for Anthony. Anthony was still interacting with his father at birthdays, at family events, making money off of his father. Meantime, secretly plotting his demise. Unfortunately, I think it's the definition of psychopath.
The house looked like something that a mad scientist would live in.
And he set it up.
Who set it up?
The mastermind, to me, he was
arrogant,
a fraudster,
a sociopath.
For $40,000, Dennis lost his life.